The chandelier trembled, though there was no wind in the golden ballroom. Laughter rose, violins sang, and crystal glasses clinked, but to Daniel, time had frozen. His throat dried, his palms burned with sweat, and his heart screamed the truth no one else dared to see. He had seen her. The woman in the red dress. A flick of her wrist. A shimmer of powder dissolving into the millionaire's wine. No one will believe me, Daniel thought, his chest pounding. They'll throw me out. They'll laugh. But then, like a knife through his fear, another thought cut in, his daughter's voice from earlier that evening, soft and innocent as she tugged his sleeve before he left their tiny apartment. "Daddy, promise me you'll come home tonight, you always keep your promises." Daniel's jaw tightened. He couldn't stay silent. Not when he had seen death swirling in that glass. Not when his little girl was waiting for him to return. With trembling steps, the poor single dad walked across the glittering hall, past men in tuxedos and women in diamonds, until he stood before Richard Caldwell, the millionaire everyone admired, feared, envied. The man whose life now hung by a thread. Daniel's voice cracked, but he forced the words out. "Sir, please, don't drink that wine. Your girlfriend, she put something in it." The words shattered the ballroom like thunder. For a second, silence. Then laughter, cold, booming, arrogant, echoed from Richard's lips. Daniel had no business in that ballroom. He was a stranger among giants, a ghost in a borrowed suit that didn't quite fit. By day, he was a waiter at a diner, by night a warehouse laborer. His shoes were worn, his wallet nearly empty, but his spirit carried a quiet dignity forged through struggle. Life had scarred him early. His wife, Emily, had died when their daughter, Lily, was only 3. Since then, Daniel had been mother and father both. Packing school lunches at dawn, tucking her in with fairy tales at night, and working himself half to death in between. Every decision, every sacrifice, every sleepless night, he endured it for Lily. Tonight, he wasn't supposed to be here. His friend at a sponsoring company had an extra ticket and insisted Daniel come. One night, "Danny," his friend had said. "Pretend you belong here. Who knows, maybe fate has something planned." Fate did. But not in the way Daniel imagined. Richard Caldwell froze, wine glass in hand, eyes narrowing as the poor boy's words hung in the air. Around him, the rich smirked. Some scoffed. The woman in red pressed her jeweled hand against Richard's arm, her voice silky but firm. "He's lying," she purred. "Darling, don't let this, nobody insult me like that." Daniel's knees wobbled, but he held his ground. He thought of Lily again, her smile when he'd braided her hair clumsily that morning, her trust when she'd whispered, "You're the best daddy in the world." He lifted his chin. "I don't care if you hate me, sir. I don't care if you throw me out. But please, don't drink it. I can't let your daughter, or anyone who loves you, lose you the way I lost my wife." A hush fell. Even Richard's mocking laughter stilled. The boy's voice had cracked with truth. His eyes shone with something money couldn't buy, sincerity. For the first time in years, Richard Caldwell hesitated. He lowered the glass. With a sharp nod, he ordered his security to test it. Minutes felt like hours. Whispers rippled across the hall. Daniel stood alone, his heart thudding, bracing for humiliation. Then the result came. The wine contained sedatives, enough to knock a man unconscious, perhaps worse. Gasps. Shouts. The room spun in shock. The woman in red's mask shattered, she struggled, screamed, as guards seized her arms. And Richard Caldwell, unshakable, untouchable Richard Caldwell, stared at the boy who had just saved his life. Later, in the hushed corner of the ballroom, Richard approached Daniel. The arrogance in his eyes had dimmed, replaced by something raw. "Why?" Richard asked. "Why would you risk humiliation, ridicule, for me? You don't know me. You had nothing to gain. Daniel's throat tightened. He thought of Lily again. His voice broke as he whispered, because I couldn't bear the thought of a little girl losing her father. No child deserves that. For the first time in years, Richard's proud face softened. The next morning, Daniel's name was on every headline: "Poor single dad saves millionaire from poison plot." Reporters swarmed, cameras flashed, but Daniel shied away. He didn't want fame. He wanted only to keep his promise to Lily, to come home safe, to keep being her father. But Richard Caldwell did not forget. He came to the diner where Daniel worked, startling every employee as the millionaire walked in with no entourage. He waited at the counter like any ordinary man, until Daniel emerged, apron-stained, exhausted from a double shift. Richard stood, his voice low but steady. "You gave me back my life. The least I can do is help you live yours. Tell me what you dream of, for yourself, for your daughter." Daniel's lips parted, but no words came. He had no dreams left, only survival. So Richard gave him one. A scholarship. A job. A chance to rise. Months later, Daniel stood in another ballroom, this time not as an outsider, but as a man with purpose, dignity, and hope. Lily sat in the front row, her eyes shining with pride as her father was honored not for wealth, but for courage. Richard raised a glass, not of wine, but of water, and looked at Daniel. To the single father, Richard said softly, "Who reminded me that real strength isn't measured in power or money, but in love." The room erupted in applause, not for the millionaire, but for the poor dad who had whispered the truth and saved a life. And as Lily hugged him that night, her small arms tight around his neck, Daniel realized that courage, kindness, and love had given them both a new beginning. This story reminds us that courage doesn't come from status or wealth. Sometimes, it comes from a father's promise to his child, or the decision to speak when silence is easier. Kindness and truth can change not only one life, but two.